So, welcome everybody who is here. Thank you so much for joining us for another evening of Etc. If you've never been to Etc. before, it is the umbrella name for all of our artist interviews here at Draw Brighton. So the Etc. program is funded by the generosity of our Patreon supporters, and the talks are available for everybody to view for free via our YouTube channel. So you can always go back and look at the talks afterwards. So this one will be recorded and you'll be able to look at it in a few days' time. You can also go back over all of our talks from the last 18 months or so. And tonight I have the great pleasure of speaking to the artist Hattie Malcolmson. Hattie, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to
Lovely
be
to have
here.
you. No, it's a proper treat because I actually came across your work because I was introduced to it by Simon Martin, who was one of our previous interviewees. He's the director of Pallant House Gallery, and he actually showed me your
Oh,
work this summer. So it's really
oh,
nice to now talk
great.
to you.
Oh, that's so nice. Yes, I'm happy to be here. Really great.
We have launched straight in that you have put some images of your work up already, so hopefully
Yeah.
all of our attendees can see those. And I wondered if you could just tell me at first a little bit more about your work and where it's at the moment.
Um, so I'd say in general, well, always, I mostly do paint quite big paintings. The characters, I always call them characters. They're always female characters in present in their own spaces. They've got kind of grotesque, almost grotesque faces, kind of ugly. Well, they could be called ugly, sometimes ugly faces, and confident poses. Yeah, they're present in their own space. The viewers kind of like intruded. I I think of I think of it, and but the characters fully okay with the viewer's presence and kind of invites them, and but they're okay with it, knowing that they're the ones in control. Um, and yeah, I think the central subject is women empowerment. So I want to I want to motivate women and other genders to feel just like excited and to be confident. I want to like motivate them to feel confident and strong. Um, but also the other side of the work is to sort of confront and challenge patriarchal society. So I'll often reference art history, and the way like paintings of the past that have shown um, women to be sort of passive. And yeah, so a constant is always feminism. Sometimes um, specific themes within feminism, so like beauty standards, women's sexuality, things like pregnancy or sex working, things like that. So yeah, and sometimes I'll paint about something that I want to learn more about, and then um I'll sort of whilst I'm painting about it, I'll sit with the ideas and I'll sit with how I'm painting this like strong character in this way in the context of what I'm painting her in, and I'll sort of come up with my opinion of it. So that sort of sparks the ideas. Or like if I'm um going through something personal, like as something that other women would go through, um, and I'll try and do it in a way to represent other women, and yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that's really interesting to kind of hear that you would use painting as a way to actually work through an idea or something that you're experiencing as well. So, how would that kind of manifest? Would it be that you'd sort of have that idea or you sort of have that experience, and would you start to explore it immediately in paint, or would you be sort of researching, looking for images around it? Talk me through your
Um,
process there.
so something that's personal, I would, so in the past, what I've done is, so say I'm sort of, I wouldn't start the painting straight away. So I would, what has happened in the past is I'll like have these like strong feelings. It will often come when I'm feeling like really emotional about something, and I'll do like drawings of it. And it will come from such a spark of like um feeling emotional and feeling creative and feeling I need to like get something down. And that's where the drawings will sort of come in, and then later on I'll sort of make it into a painting and see how I can relate it to other women. um, or if it's something that's something I want to learn more about, um, I what I've done in the past is I'll sort of as I'm painting or as I'm drawing ideas, I'll be listening to maybe like podcasts about the subjects I want to learn more about. So like a few months ago, I painted a sex worker, and well, no, this was like a while ago, one or two. This was when I was still doing my degree, um,
I think we're
and
all allowed a couple of years worth of leeway with dates now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Who knows? COVID. Um, but yeah, so I sort of, I didn't know my opinion. Now I know my opinion on it now. It's about sex working. Um, at the time, I didn't really know where I stood, so I wanted to make a painting about. I wanted to paint a sex worker, and so throughout art history, sex workers have been presented as prostitutes, um, a lot, and yeah, so art history is something I reference a lot, and so I was sort of looking at that, and then also listening to podcasts about sex working in present times. um so yeah, that's just an example, I think, of what um of yeah of things I want to learn more about and stuff. So yeah.
And with these two paintings that you've got up at the moment, could you tell me about a little bit more about those and how they came about?
So the one on the left, that that's quite an old paint, well, not old, but kind of old. um that was done in my degree, like the end, that was the last painting I did in my degree. So 2020, yeah, like May 2020. um and yeah, it's sort of, it's showing, it's called lockdown game playing. So I wanted to show a woman lying on like her bed in lockdown. She's isolated. um like the window is in the corner, which is showing the outside, but she's not out there, she's trapped inside, she's isolating, she's in lockdown. um and I think also at the time there was uh people, obviously they were just like doing things on their laptops and their phones. A lot of people, I think Sims was like coming back, so I kind of put that in there, and then also I put Tinder on her phone, so it's like games. um and she's in like almost a reclining pose, which also relates to art history, references art history, because the reclining pose was used a lot. And then on the right, the flowers, um, that references Tom Weaselman, um, him and one of his paintings, and he would often sort of portray women to be. I find his I find his paintings very. I find them to be objectifications, basically. Um, and so I wanted to reference his. I've done his references of his work quite a lot. Um, and oh yeah, also the leopard print is also from one of his paintings as well. um so yeah, and then the one on the right is called A Sunflower in the Sitting Room. um and this was, I don't usually sort of say who the characters are inspired by, because they're not usually inspired by real people, or like I'll work from someone, but I don't want them to be related to that person, because I think of them as characters and not real people. I don't think of my work as portraiture. But I think this one, it's hard, because I think of the one on the right as characters, but also almost portraits. So it's actually me and my mum. um and I think it's sort of about like growth and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's this one I think is very different to how I usually paint. It's more um about, I think, like the mother-daughter relationship rather than the cat. Yeah, it's more personal rather than, say, like the one on the left, which is more of a character. um but yeah, this is very different. Like I don't usually paint portraits. I don't think of them as portraits, but yeah, that's sort of an overview of both of them.
So with this, with the one on the right, with it kind of potentially relating more to you and your mother, like with, did you use any kind of visual reference from the two of you to inform that in any way, or is it still very much kind of coming
Yeah.
from references?
I So it's in it's based in my sitting room at home, and I basically just put the camera and in front of us and did a self timer. And yeah, and the sofa, the crimson uh sort of bar behind us, well, it looks like a bar. It's That's supposed to be our sofa, well, the sort of beginning of it. And it's that color, and I feel quite close, like that sofa and stuff, but also it's also supposed to look like we're almost outside because of the sunflower. Oh, I feel like, can you see, am I in the is my camera in the way of that? Can you see the full painting now
Yeah, yeah,
with
can
the
see it
sunflower?
just fine.
um
Absolutely.
yeah, so yeah, I kind of wanted to portray that it's kind of like inside but outside. um but yeah, no, yeah, this is very, very different to the others, I think, of it.
And you've got a really distinctive use of paint. I mean, you're using lovely kind of thick brushstrokes where the paint itself is really present in the surface of the image. So, has that been a thread all the way through your degree, or is at what stage has that kind of really developed? Because it feels very consistent in a lot of your painted work.
um yeah, so I think throughout my degree I kind of just kept coming back to painting really thick, like really thick oil. I kept on just adding more and more paint. um and it kind of just happened naturally that I was just like playing around with painting anything really, really thick paint. And then I started painting. Sorry about the noise from the road. um yeah, and then I started painting these characters, and I would paint their skin in this really, really thick paint, and I just saw that it was just like really, it was like sickly and like kind of like too much, but also seductive in a way. And I found it just like worked really well with um how I was presenting these characters, and they're very, it was just like a lot, and it's very harsh, and it's I want it also shows very thick brushstrokes, very strong brushstrokes, which I think kind of represents the strength that I want to portray in the characters as well. And yeah, I think it just gives all the things that I want to portray in the characters. So it's kind of like, I think it also kind of gives like a look but don't touch kind of feel. Like I a lot of people tell me that they just want to touch my paintings. Um and like I even find myself, I'm always touching my own paintings. um but obviously because it's a painting, people can't really touch it. So it kind of, yeah, it gives like a look but don't touch feel, um which, yeah, like I want the characters to give themselves as well. Also, I think it's also very, I like there to be a lot of contrast with the thickness of the characters against so the backgrounds are always, well, most of the time they are acrylic, so they're very flat acrylic, and then the foregrounds of the characters are very thick um, oil paint. And then also sometimes the characters' clothes are painted in quite thin oil. So the skin is very thick against this the clothes and the background. And I think I love this idea that the skin is kind of like coming out of the clothes, because the characters are taking up so much space. And yeah, yeah, I just love the idea of a character, that these characters just taking up so much space, being just like so much, like too much, but not too much, but like just like almost like the impression that, society is telling women that they're too much. Like, yes, be too much, just be a lot, like that's good, do that. Pretty much.
Thinking very literally about taking up space as well. You were saying just now that you've moved to London. You don't have a studio space at the moment,
Yeah.
but previously you were working in the Phoenix studio because you were the recipient
Yeah.
of the CASART Studio Award.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to kind of affect your work? Because I guess you're going from having a dedicated studio space to, at the moment, not having that space to work in. Are you aiming to go back to this kind of large scale work?
Yes, I think, um like I think it would feel wrong not to. Like, I don't, I think it's such an important part of my work to work quite big. I mean, I've got the smaller scale stuff as well, but I find it really important to have these characters taking up so much space, sort of like spreading themselves a, across these large canvases. I mean, I think I'm always gonna, from now, so recently started with the lino prints that I've recently started doing. Um, I think I'll keep that going as well. But I also feel like I definitely need to have the big paintings. And I think I'm just gonna make it happen. Like, I'm just gonna. So I've just moved to London, but I don't have a studio right now. But I'm gonna. Find it's really important that I need to find somewhere where I can just make really big paintings. Um, so I want it enough to make it happen, I think. So, because yeah, I think it's really important.
And the last, I presume the last chance you had to show these paintings, was that your I'm Like Other Girls exhibitions, your solo show?
Yeah.
Like,
Um.
tell me more about that.
So so these two paintings weren't in that show. These were in my solo show in London a few months ago. So yeah, so the one on the left here was in I'm Like Other Girls at Phoenix, last that closed this month, opened last month. So the one on the left, and then these two were as well. Um, so this show it started to focus more on the theme of beauty. So um, my paintings in my solo show in London a few months ago, they sort of, I mean, they all had the same intentions, they all had the same um, central subject of women empowerment and wanting to confront and challenge patriarchal society. But I find that this body of work, um, for I'm Like Other Girls, I kind of think of it almost more of a body of work, because it kind of has more of a constant theme of something more specific. So that being beauty. Um, and yeah, and also, so yeah, I think that happened more naturally, because I think I was just thinking more about it and my relationship towards beauty over the past few months. And um, after my first solo show, I kind of I kind of wanted to do. It was hard because I was like, oh, I think after doing a big solo show, a bit doing having done a lot of paintings, that's for a specific thing that's quite big, afterwards you kind of think, okay, what am I even doing? What do I want to do? Um, and I kind of just like started experimenting with different things. I started with the lino prints. I started um, painting more thinly. So you can see on the diptych on the right, the one on the left of the right, so the more middle painting on the screen, that's painted in quite thin oil, which I don't do at all usually. Well, I do now, but I didn't before. Um, so that's one of the things I wanted to experiment with. And then also these paintings, they're not a lot smaller than the paintings of my previous show, but I did purposely scale down because the window gallery at Phoenix is a lot thinner, so you can't really stand back to look at the paintings. So I kind of was like, okay, I've got to scale down a bit. Um, but I also enjoyed that. Like I enjoyed kind of being forced to. I thought it would be a challenge, but I kind of enjoyed being forced to make a kind of smaller change to the work and see how I'd work around it. And yeah, I just enjoyed it. And yeah, so main thing about it, I think, was that it was about beauty specifically. Um, yeah, the one on the right, that's called Hot Girl Summer. So she's at the beach in a swimming costume. She's got hairy legs. She's got pubes. She's got a sanitary pad in over her swimming costume. Um, and it's called Hot Girl Summer. So she's like unapologetic. She's proud to be at the beach. Um, and yeah, like women's body hair has been something that I've sort of been exploring a lot over the past few months. And yeah, it was great showing there because yeah, no, everything at Phoenix is always just like lovely. I just love everyone at Phoenix, and just yeah, it was great basically.
What was it like being in that community environment as well? Because am I right that you went straight from the end of your degree and then into the Phoenix studio?
Yeah, so I graduated 2020, summer 2020, and then had summer, and then September was when I moved into the Phoenix studio. And yeah, I mean, I yeah, I loved basically I loved um everyone who was like worked at Phoenix. I didn't really get to know. I mean, I loved everyone that I knew there, but I didn't get to know that many people because of COVID, and because I mean, I only ever experienced it through COVID, so I I have no point of reference to comparing it to how it used to be. But people told me that it was a lot less busy than it was before. So, and also there wasn't there only started to be um sort of exhibitions towards the end of the time I was there. Um, so yeah, I kind of wish that I was able to. Well, I definitely wish that I was able to meet more people, more of the artists. But the ones that I knew, yeah, it was great. Everyone there is great, pretty much. And and Vivian and Sarah and Jade, they're all they're in the office. Um, they're they were so supportive and lovely, basically. So yeah, I'm sad to have left, basically.
Well, hopefully there'll be a chance for you to go back at some point, or even just to
Yeah,
visit
yeah.
again. Did
Yeah,
you get a
definitely.
chance to talk to people much around the exhibition itself as well? Like to either other artists at the Phoenix, or to people coming to see the exhibition?
I'm like other girls at exhibition.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, so I had a few conversations at the private view. But yeah, it's been hard because I've moved to London like the day after the show. Haven't really been able to be there much. But um I had I had a gallery get in contact with me, a Brighton gallery, so I'm thinking something might happen there. Um, but yeah, I think in general, what people have said about who were at Phoenix when they've spoken to me about it, they've it's been quite positive. So, however, actually, oh, one person, I mean, it's not even, don't know why I acted so about that, but yeah, there has been one person who has who wrote he wrote about the exhibition, and I yeah, I really liked what he wrote. Um, it was quite interesting because he said that he was very his initial reaction to the work was quite that he felt shocked by it, um, which is something that I find really interesting because that's kind of what I'm going for. So yeah, so I either want to have like a feeling of empowerment and sort of yeah motivating strength and empowerment in women and other people, but also to yeah cause shock and discomfort in some people because I want them to sort of question why they're feeling this shock and why they're feeling this discomfort. So yeah, reading that was really interesting because that sort of excites me more than having people that um are like, oh yeah, I really like the work, um, which is great as well. But I think hearing that someone was shocked by it um is great. Yeah, I, that yeah. So that's often a reaction I get, and then um, but yeah, it gives me more of a buzz, kind of hearing not negative, but I mean, he said that his initial reactions were kind of like, oh, it's not my thing, don't really like it, it's too much, like it's I felt uncomfortable, um, and yeah, I just that gives me more of a buzz basically, because yeah, I'm just like, oh my work's having an effect on people, it's making people kind of think, like that's what I want. Yeah.
What's your best way of gauging impact as well? Do you sort of sneak around your exhibitions when they're on to overhear what people are saying about them incognito in some way? Or is it all just from kind of written reviews and things you get to hear afterwards?
Um, I think it's more like hearing people afterwards. I think when I'm at my own sort of private view, I'm a bit like too like nervous to be to be listening into people's conversations. Um, but yeah, it's mainly hearing about it afterwards or people sort of telling me yeah, no, it's mainly actually yeah, it's having people tell me afterwards, and it's also me showing them for the first time. So if I'll show someone like a picture of my work, or like just show them a painting and they've never seen my work before, and then I see their reaction, they're like, oh, interesting, or they're just like um they just seem a bit yeah they seem a bit uneasy, and I like that basically. So
And I mean, quite specifically, so like you were saying, you're exploring body hair. You've been exploring body hair in paintings and things. I mean, tell me more about that exploration and what you've sort of discovered, where you've gone with it.
um so I think I've it's kind of like naturally started to happen. I think over the last few months, I've kind of been thinking about like my own relationship to my body hair, um, and also just thinking about beauty in general. And it's something that women just kind of automatically just it's just part of most women's routine to just like get rid of body hair. Um, and I think I've just been thinking about it, and it's just I kind of just think it's like the pressure of it is just ridiculous. Like, um, why should we have to? Um, like the moment that girls sprout body hair, we're sort of taught to just get rid of it. Um, and I just kind of think it's ridiculous that it's not like that for men. Like it's just when you think about, because I just, it's just a human thing. Men and women both grow body hair. Like why? I just think it's quite ridiculous. That it's for women, it's like you should be ashamed of it. It's dirty. You've got to get rid of it. So I've sort of tried to portray it in a way that is um, these characters are completely confident about their body hair. They're fine with it. They're not phased by it. It's part of who they are. So yeah, I think it's also, I mean, I'm just thinking this now. I kind of think of it almost as like decoration as well, which is um this literally just popped into my head now. Um, it's which kind of relates to like the I think it almost creates a pattern. Um, and pattern is something that I often use in my work as a kind of a way to like almost decorate the paintings because I want to have this attraction. I want to have attraction and repulsion. Um, these things happening. So I'll have yeah. So things that are attractive. So like often sensual bodies or pattern, color, um, heavy impasto, but also repulsive things that will cause discomfort. A heavy impasto again, which would be sickly colors, grotesque faces. Um, but yeah, um, the body hair. I'm thinking, yeah, just thinking about it now, it's kind of almost like a pattern, a repetitive thing that's kind of decorative. Um, yeah, and thinking about that in the sense of in the idea of beauty, and it's something that we're supposed to get rid of, like. Uh, but I think in in my way of yeah, in thinking about it as decoration, it's kind of like it's a good thing to have. Like it's something that could be like beautiful. I don't know. I'm just like thinking out loud here, but um
I
yeah, I
just
think
that's such an interesting reflection because I think it can be difficult with discussions around social norms is that the social norms are
yeah,
established. So it's really hard to know whether we're just going through reactions to those social norms. And then it makes it really
yeah,
difficult to understand what an authentic personal choice might be.
yeah,
And I think you're hitting it so well there that it's, you know, that you might choose to be decorated with your natural body hair or
yeah,
it's a lovely reflection.
yeah. And I think some people are some women are doing that more now. They're feeling like they don't want to get rid of their body hair because it's part of their womanhood. Like, and it's a personal decision, um whereas the other side of it is, you know, we've got to shave to be beautiful. You being a woman is being hairless. Like, but that's just so ridiculous to me. Um, and but I mean, like, I'm not saying at all that it's you shouldn't shave. Like, I'm saying, yeah, like what you said, it should be completely like um the social norms shouldn't get in the way of your decision. Like, if you want to be hairless, be hairless. If you want to have hair, have hair. But it shouldn't. I I hate the pressure that society puts on you that you have to be a certain way. Um, and yeah, I just want to show these characters who have made that decision, who want to have their body hair and they feel great in their body hair, basically. And they feel strong and powerful in it, basically.
And thank you for all of that context as well, because it's making me look at all of your work here through a very different lens, which is fantastic. You've mentioned before about the impact of historical works of art and contemporary works of art on your own practice and sort of borrowing from that imagery. Um, is there anything you can kind of elaborate on there? I mean, are there particular artists that you found really useful to borrow from, or that you've wanted to subvert in your work?
Yeah, so I often reference art history. I've used a number of artists, so they're always male artists who have sort of presented women to be passive, to be basically objectifications. I think I think it's kind of ignored or not spoken about that um, women have been presented throughout art history to um, be as objectifications, basically. So yeah, I'll often reference these artists by using reminiscent poses or still lives areas of the painting, just like different things like pattern, and but I want to I basically use it to create to remind the viewer of this objectification within art history, and to sort of create a juxtaposition of this idea of the objectification of women in art history next to the idea of a strong female character presented by a woman, not through the male gaze. Um, she's happy to be there. She's in control of the situation, the character, um, and yeah, to it's to sort of re-author these paintings and to reclaim how the woman has been presented in art. So yeah, this painting is called Masturbating Aurora. So sorry about the noise. um, it's yeah. So um, this was appropriated from a painting by Giorgione and Titian of Sleeping Venus. Um, and then I've also referenced Sleeping Beauty in this painting as well with her hair. Um, so, but I've kind of changed the situation. She's awake, she's not asleep, um, and to kind of make it look like she's maybe masturbating. She's well, she is masturbating, but maybe she's masturbating over the over the viewer. Like the role of voyeurism is um, flipped. It's not the painting isn't by a man for a man. It's by a woman uh, for women and other genders. And yeah, and I think an artist that I've appropriated a lot is Matisse. So the background of this appropriates Matisse. And sorry, these are some of my prints. I'll skip to where. So yeah, here is a couple of few paintings by Matisse that I've referenced in my work a few times. So I'll reference his Odalisque paintings a lot. So what he did in the 1920s was he would um, pose European women, but present them as in his paintings he would present them as Muslim women from areas of North Africa that the French had conquered, and he would create setups in his apartment in Nice of North African props and textiles. And yeah, he would present these European models, but as imagined Muslim women. Um, but they would they're very they're shown as objectifications. They're pretty much exploring the harem sex fantasy, and yeah, and he was very interested in traditions and objects that weren't French, and but this sort of cultural interchange that happened that was able to happen. So he had a lot of culturally hybrid sources, and but the reason that he could have this was because of structures such as colonialism. And then I think the colonial context just becomes even worse when it's uh, exists in depictions of European sex fantasies, basically. So yeah, I found these paintings very interesting, and I've wanted to just like reference them, to appropriate them, and to reauthor them and steal from them, because I just love this idea of like stealing from the male gaze. So yeah, he's an artist that I've used a lot. And then here's a couple of paintings that I have um I've appropriated from Matisse to make them. And yeah, and then and another artist that has painted Odalisque is Delacroix. Um, and sorry, I can't say his name because it's French. Delacroix. Um, so he's painted Odalisque before, and I so a few months ago I painted this kind of in after seeing his painting, and also uh, Picasso's. So I basically, a few months ago, I knew, I mean, for a while I had known that I wanted to paint a painting of several characters, um, and I sort of didn't really know how I was going to do it. And then so often when I want to get new ideas, I'll go through um, my source imagery that I collect. So I was going through it, and I found this painting by Delacroix, and Picasso's painting Women of Algiers, which is also so he did 15 versions of this, inspired by Delacroix's painting Women of Algiers in their apartment. And so yeah, I came across these, and they inspired me, and I was like, oh, I want to do 4 characters, but so these women are supposed to be in their the full name of the painting is The Women of Algiers in Their Apartment. So I wanted to show 4 characters in the flat that they have together. So this painting is called Women of Flat 8. But yeah, so this painting here is sort of, it's quite like a European fantasy of how a harem would be, because it's not realistic. um there wouldn't be sort of the various states of undress and the discarded sandal, etc. Like it's not a realistic representation of what it would be. And then the Picasso's version of it is kind of he takes it to another level by fragmenting the characters and them seeming to be everywhere at once, and he takes the false reality to another level. But I kind of wanted to re- redo redo this and show it to be a more realistic representation of women in their own space. Put it in present times, and yeah, to show these women being completely comfortable. They're okay with the viewer's presence. They're kind of inviting the viewer. They're looking at the viewer. And also, I think it's quite fitting for current times, because it's like in the home. It's it's because the home is a very prominent thing in our lives now because of lockdown, spending more time here. Um, and the idea of comfort as well. They're all like kind of in their pajamas or naked on a comfy sofa, which I think is very different to these paintings, which just doesn't have much comfort of the home or anything. Um, so yeah, I kind of wanted to redo this representation of these women in their own space, basically.
Thank you so much for all of that, Hattie. It's just, it's so, I'm looking at that because I'd already looked at this painting in preparation for tonight, and it's just, I'm seeing it in a completely different light with all of your context as well. It's absolutely fascinating. I did want to invite anyone that's listening at the moment to submit any questions. If you wanted to put any questions through the Q&A for Hattie, so do feel free to type anything that you'd like to ask. Hattie and I are going to keep chatting, and then if I do see a question come up, I'll make sure I put it to her. I wondered, sort of bouncing off of some of the things you've been saying, Hattie. It always seems like in the referencing of these historical paintings that you're talking about and borrowing from in your work, and kind of critiquing and reappropriating in the most wonderful way. When they're talked about in an art historical context, kind of in books and things, that there's always this strange sort of sanitizing language where it sort of describes, woman reclining when sort of she's clearly being presented as a masturbating woman for the male viewer by a male artist. Like, do you think that sort of discussion, that kind of sanitizing language applied to work, sort of stops us viewing some of those problematic images for what they are?
Yeah, I think, like, it's just completely ignored that these paintings, like, I think from being I think we were taught in uni about sort of how these paintings are objectifying and stuff, but I don't think we are enough. And I think, yeah, in books, it's not, unless you're reading a sort of feminist critique on it, it's not. Yeah, you're right. It's like a sanitizing sort of. They're making it sound like it's okay, like presented it's not presenting a woman in a way that is for the male gaze. And yeah, these, when it's showing a woman that's, so yeah, like Sleeping Venus, it's in the um, it's called the pudica pose, where yeah, she's got her hand on her crutch, where it's suggestive that she's masturbating. And it's just called reclining, when it's ignoring that her hand is in that area. I mean, she might not be masturbating or anything, but it is just, it's like, oh, she's just reclining. But yeah, I think I kind of, with that painting, I wanted to kind of make it obvious that she was masturbating. But I wanted to make it like in your face and just obvious, and like it's in her control. She's not doing it for the pleasure of anyone else. She's just doing it because she has a liberated sense of her own sexuality and she wants to do it. But yeah, I think just in general, it's just not spoken about enough, I don't think. Like, nude women have been in art history for so long, like, and it's just ignored that it's basically for the male gaze, pretty much.
I've got some really practical questions about your painting, if I
Oh, I
could
think
ask those of
I
you.
think I can.
Can you see them okay?
How big are the paintings? Um, so the paintings are, I'd say my most consistent size is about 150 by 150. And but I'll work a bit smaller than that. Or so this painting on screen now is a diptych, and that is 3 meters long. And so yeah, so it's 155 by 300 centimeters. So this is a very big painting, and this is my biggest painting. Or I'll do sort of like a meter by a meter paintings. That's sort of my smallest size, and then the lino prints are more A4 or A5, pretty much. Um, what's your inspiration for the vibrant green slash blue skin tone? Um, I'm always just wanting to so the paintings are never um realistic colors of a real person. So I always, so like as I said before, I always want them to be seen as characters, that they're not real people. And I think that the weird colors sort of they add to the vibrancy and intensity of paintings, and they add to this idea of maybe something that's very falsely creative, but like I'm finding it hard to like word this well, but I want them to add to the aesthetic and to create this attractive aesthetic, but like very sort of attention seeking and very in your face. And I also, color is very important to me, so I always want to have, I don't want anything that's like skin color or um brown really. I want like in your face colors. And these I often, so if there's like a color that I want to specifically have in a painting, I'll say if I wanted this sofa to be pink, for instance, I would sort of construct the rest of the painting to work off that color. So sometimes I'll start with the color I want something else to be, and then I'll work off that on what I think will kind of almost clash with that color that I want. And yeah, choose what I want the character's color to be based on what other things will be. Or sometimes I'll want a character to be a certain color because I don't know, I just like want it to be that color. And then I'll have other things um being separate, contrasting colors to that. um but yeah, it's all about just, I also just think I just love weirdness. Like I just like I just like the characters to just be weird and just not human. Even though I want to portray this like true humanness through them, um I I don't want the characters themselves to be human. I just want them to like represent humanity, basically, I think. Um so yeah, I also think I will never paint in like realistic colors. I just don't understand. I feel like I don't understand painting in realistic colors because it doesn't excite me as much. I love painting in just these like bright in your face colors. That's like what was always a constant in throughout uni. I always paint, no matter how often my style changed, which it changed a lot. Um, I would always keep the really, really bright colors. Um, so yeah, that's something I think will never change.
And that's transferred over into your printmaking as well.
Yeah, um, yeah, I'll bring some of those up. Oh,
Because for anyone that's in Brighton at the moment, Hattie's got some work in the Phoenix's
yeah,
press and play exhibition. So yeah, yes, it would be great to see
yeah.
those.
These are the prints in the press and play exhibition. So yeah, I'll, with like every print, I sort of do them in all the colors that I have, basically. Um, to sort of see what works, how a different color will show the print in a different way. So like for instance with this um this line of print, yeah, it was really, the one on the left, the one in the blue is the one in the exhibition. But it was really hard for me to decide because I really like the pink and the sort of red color as well. Um, but yeah, I like having that. I like to see them next to each other as well. But yeah, these are the ones that are in the current show. And yeah, I kind of, yeah, line and printing is something that's very new to me, but I've kind of fallen in love with it over the past few months. Um, I've started to kind of do it before um before, if I have an idea for a painting, I'll often do it as sort of like a drawing, like in preparation for the painting. I'll do a lino print, but more than a drawing, it's more of a, it's also a piece of artwork in itself, more than a drawing would be. Um, and yeah, I really like this like extra bit of exploration before doing the full-on painting. And yeah, and I think it also, it brings a different level to the work as well. Uh, I think it's more intimate. It shows something. Yeah, I think of it as more intimate. And it has the ability to show different things, maybe like vulnerability, um, and stuff, rather than having very harsh, in your face big paintings. The smaller and yeah, more um sort of intimate line of prints give something very different, I think, to the work, which I've really been enjoying exploring recently. So I think it's going to stay a constant in my work, definitely.
Have you found the kind of subtractive process to be very different to the way you'd normally paint?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I mean, I think it took a bit of getting used to, but it was also like I said before, when I said about scaling down, it's like it's really nice to sort of have something that you have to change, that you've sort of got to work your way around, um, finding your way of doing it, or uh, of keeping the things that you want to keep, but compromising on other things. It's quite fun and interesting, just like figuring out these ways and like problem solving. And yeah, it's felt very different, but I've really enjoyed it. Like it's yeah, when first started doing it, I was like, oh, can't believe it's taken me so long to actually get around to it. So I did it a bit during my art during my art foundation. I did it a bit, but I didn't really properly do it until a few months ago. And um yeah, I I love it, basically. Just love
Well, I think we're all looking forward to seeing more.
it.
Um, we are
Maybe.
pretty much at the end of our interview, Hattie. It's
Ah,
just
it's gone
flown
quite
by.
quickly.
I
Yeah.
know. Was there anything you wanted to throw in before we finish?
Um, I don't think so. No.
I think we've covered it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just,
pretty
it's
much.
been, thank you so much for giving so much background to your work and being so
That's right.
generous with
Thank
all
you
of
for
this.
having me.
It
Been
is
a
a total
pleasure.
pleasure. Excellent. And thank you everyone for joining us as well. So as I said earlier, a recording of this will be posted up on the Draw Bryson YouTube alongside all of our past talks as well. So you can always come back to those. And for future talks as well, you'll always be able to find what's going on through our social media. So, and I really recommend following Hattie on, is it best to follow you on Instagram, Hattie, or kind of check your website for what's going on next?
Yeah, my Instagram's probably the best. I need to be better with my website. That's something I need to start doing, and I will start doing more. Um, but yeah, my Instagram's probably best, I reckon. So I'm Hattie Malcolmson _art on Instagram. So
That is just fantastic. Well, I think we'll draw things to a close there. But thank you so much, Hattie.
that's all
It's
right.
been
Thank you for
great.
having me.